So I guess the next thing that I want to talk about a little bit then is, what does it mean? What does it mean to regard someone? And if we think about the fact that most parents love their children, and most children don't feel loved, we know that sometimes our intentions don't translate, right? So we set out to do it, but somehow it kind of falls astray somewhere. So, you know, I know that men like action, right? We don't just want to talk, we want action. So let's talk about what actions on your part might result in your daughter not only being regarded, but feeling regarded. And so what I've done is I've used that little word regard there on your paper. And then what I like to do is kind of go through and just talk about each of those really briefly. And this is not exhaustive in any way. It's just a start, okay? And there's probably lots of other things that we could have included tonight, but this is just a way to think about it. Okay, so the first one, reach out. Okay, what I'm talking about here is physical contact. We know that physical contact actually fills up the emotional tank of our kids. So, you know, I'm talking about a hand on a shoulder. I'm talking about a hug, a kiss. I'm also talking about what kind of touch doesn't feel okay to your daughter. What kind of touch scares her, or intimidates her, or worries her. Okay? And we want to be clear about that. We can fill up the emotional tank, or we can leave it very, very empty. Right? So think about what kind of touch. I was talking to my daughter today, my 27-year-old daughter today, and she said, "Oh, I would have really liked to have been there tonight." And I said, "What would you have said if you were there?" And she said, "I would have said that I really like Dad waking me up in the morning better than an alarm clock." That's one of the things she would have said. Okay, why is that? Why is that? Because he does it in such a way that it's nice for her. The touch that happens there is nice. She likes it. It feels good. Right? It fills up her emotional tank. It's a nice way for her to start her day. Okay, so, and then the next one, eye contact. Okay, what I've said there is make it. You notice I've given very cryptic instructions here. Okay. I don't think we'll talk much about that, except to say that you communicate your regard in the way you look at someone. You know that, don't you? You know the whole thing about looks can kill, or looks can embrace. And you can't actually do this while you're reading the paper, right? You actually have to put the paper down, okay? And look, and see, and notice, and make eye contact. Okay, the third one is G for, this is a Canadian word, right? This is G for gab. Gab, gabbing, yakking, talking, right? You know, do you use that word? Okay. So, I think my husband has just recently recognized that the telephone is one way that you can actually, you know, kind of make contact and keep up with people. That it's actually one way of expressing your love for somebody, that you just kind of chat. You just kind of chat. It's not actually just functional. Do you need this? Okay, bye. Right? You can actually, you know, talk about your day. And our kids have really taught him that, haven't they? Yeah. And they now say, "Dad, that's really good. We've been talking for 10 minutes. Right. I know you're running out of things now, Dad. It's good. You've done well." Okay? So, and one of the things that we notice about conversation and women is that, and Deborah Tannen has done some interesting research to this end. She's looked at the way women talk and the way men talk. And what she notices is that women talk often about their failures and about the stuff that didn't go well and the stuff that they stuffed up and the stuff that's been a disappointment, etc. Okay? So they often link around those issues. Men, on the other hand, link around what?
Success.
Yes, good, excellent. They link around success, around what went well, what's great, right? So now if you're thinking about linking to your daughter, what does that mean?
Your opposites.
Maybe.
Partly.
Maybe, yeah. And so what you might think about is when you talk about what's going well in her life, or in your life, whatever. Because, you know, that's your comfort zone. So you can start there if you want. But remember that you might want to talk about what's not going so well. That's good. She wants to talk about that. She wants you to know about that. She wants you to enter into that. Okay? The other thing is you might need to talk more than you want to. I think there is some data, although I'm not real familiar with how good it is, about the fact that women need to, have something like 2,500 words a day to feel like they've talked. And men need how many? Yeah, something like that. There's a big discrepancy between the amount of words that one gender needs and the other gender needs, okay? So what that means when you talk to your daughters is what?
Still an imbalance.
Yeah, it might be an imbalance. You might be talking longer than you really want to be. You might be using a lot more words than you really want to be. But why would you do that?
Engage.
Exactly. She's probably got lots to say, right? So.
But you wouldn't discredit then if you wanted to talk to your son and do the same now.
No. Yeah, exactly. However, it's really interesting. I think there's a kind of curve about girls and their talking. I'm getting hard data to support this, but I think what happens is they both start out about the same, boys and girls. They like to talk about the same. And then as adolescent hits, their need to talk goes up. And boys need to talk goes down, right? So you often have, at adolescence, boys not saying much, girls saying a heck of a lot, right? That's okay. I think it usually kind of comes sort of like this at some point. But yeah, you might need to engage and talk just a bit more if it is in your comfort zone. Fourthly, this is this thing about being available. Make it a priority. It'll be good for you. And obviously, I don't think we need to talk about this too much, but you can't reach out, you can't make eye contact, you can't talk if you're not available, right? And it's one of the other things that one of the kids said today. One of the things that was so nice about being fathered by Pete was that there was long car rides often on the way to school, and there was lots of chatting about this, that, and the other. Now, that was availability that was there just by chance almost. And sometimes you have to work harder to make that availability, but be available. Okay. Fifthly, ride the wave of emotion. The ups and the downs. I think that some of you know about that catching waves is fun. Is that correct? You caught any waves? It's kind of fun. Okay. So this is a new kind of wave. This is the wave of what's happening emotionally in your daughter's life. And I think for many men it feels a bit scary. Oh my gosh, she's crying. What's that about? Ride the wave. It's okay. I know a man in Sydney, John Chapman, some of you may know him, and he reckons he's on a one-man crusade to help Australian men be more emotional. So he reckons that what he does is he goes to a movie, and if it's a sad movie, he takes a big handkerchief. And if it's sad, he cries as much as he can. And then when the movie's over, he stands up and in a loud way, he blows his nose really loud and wipes his nose, and then he puts his handkerchief in his pocket and he says, "That's the best cry I've had in a week." And he hopes that he's going to have some effect on the men around him. Maybe they'll think it's okay to cry. Okay, so what I'm saying is your daughters in their expressiveness may gift you, and you might ride that wave with them. Nothing bad's going to happen. It'll be okay. You'll get into shore. And you may be gifted with understanding that emotional terrain a little bit more. And the interesting thing about that is that that will be an advantage to you in every other relationship in your life. That'll be an advantage to you with your partner. That'll be an advantage to you in the workplace. Right? So ride the wave. It's okay. I remember a time when I was about 19 and I'd just broken up with my boyfriend, and I was very distressed, and I was sitting out trying to be inconspicuous, sitting out of the house trying to cry quietly. And my dad found me. He came along, and as he was coming by, he just put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "It's tough, isn't it?" And then he moved on. And what he did in that moment is he entered into what was happening for me emotionally. I didn't actually want to have a long conversation with my dad about this issue, okay? but he entered into it with me. He acknowledged my feeling. It was great. I felt so cared about by him in that moment. And I felt that my emotions were okay. It was okay to be sad when something sad happens. He validated that for me.